Labs, Granules, Glenmark, and clearly renewed optimism across the mid-cap pharma end of the market specifically. And of course, the metals rally as well chugs along quite nicely. Nalco has been seeing 3 days of a continual bout up. So that stock is holding up well, and NMDC as well. Federal Bank has surged 4.5%. And then it continues to be M&M, in pole position within the Nifty, Maruti, or for that matter, even L&T, which is participating today. Let me take that point forward with Soni Patnaik, Andrew Holland, as well as Nooresh Merani, and find out what they're making of the market and how this week or next week is going to pan out, really. Nooresh, hi, afternoon. Firstly, let's come to you. What's the trend you're picking up within the pharma names, especially mid-caps, Ipca, Granules, Glenmark?
So the trend is pretty strong. Granules is something which I'd been recommending for a week. Finally, the stock has broken out above that 440 mark. That opens up a target price of 480 to 500 in the short term. Ipca Labs also gave a breakout above 1150, which opens up a target price of 1400. So pharma looks pretty positive in terms of the mid-cap ones. The large cap ones like Sun Pharma has gone up slowly and steadily from 1000 to 1500. In the large cap space, Dr. Reddy still looks positive. The breakout was at 6,000. It's gone up only to 6,300. Upside could be closer to 6,800 to 7,000 on that one in the extreme short term. So Dr. Reddy is in the large cap, Granules in the mid cap, and even Ipca Labs look promising.
So that's the take as far as pharma stocks are concerned. But let me bring Andrew Holland also into the conversation. Andrew, what's your view on pharma?
I think there's so much rotation that if I say that I don't see very much catalyst for the pharma sector, then it'll have its own run. So that's the kind of market we have at the moment. It's all momentum based, and it's shifting from sector to sector depending on what news you have. If it's a bit more negative, then pharma does well. I mean, globally in terms of negative news. But with the kind of, if you take the IT sector again, it was doing nothing, and then with the kind of moves that you've seen in NASDAQ and the expectation that even with interest rates not falling, these companies will do well, and that really is where the bottom is for the IT companies. So, it's fundamental wise, it's difficult to justify some of these the move that we've seen. But momentum's there, so it's hard to fight this momentum, but it is more rotational. So I think fundamentally, I'm not so keen on the pharma sector in the short term, but it will have its own day as we've been seeing, and certain stocks will have a run up.
Yes, it's certainly having its day in the sun today for sure, because the pharma pack is fairly active. But Andrew believes it's more rotational rather than a fundamental, structural story there. But Soni, what do you make of the market setup right now? Momentum is definitely on the upside. We are less than 200 points away from that all-time high level on the Nifty now. Do you think next week we are set for fresh highs?
Good afternoon, Anisha and Arsha. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I think, yes, definitely today we've seen Nifty holding up above 22,000, and there's a significant open interest additions happening at 22,000 put, which is indicating that the support has definitely risen from 21,500. Now there are multiple support in the range of 21,800 to 22,000. And the weekly closing also, that can happen above 22,000 most likely today. So going forward, 22,100, 150 is the previous all-time high, which may hold some resistance, but once broken past it, Nifty can head towards 22,500 to 22,600. So this may happen by the end of Feb series, and similar structures getting formed in Bank Nifty as well. I think Bank Nifty is heading towards 47,000. Any point above 47,000, you can see very sharp short covering happening in Bank Nifty up to levels of 48,000. I think Bank Nifty also has formed multiple support in the range of 45,500 to 46,000. So both the indices are looking quite positive for the next week.
Right, okay, that's the take coming in on where the markets are headed. But just look, has already hit a life high. Continual up move in the stock, now at 1,800 plus levels. What next?
So the stock gave a breakout about 1,750, which was the last top 3 times over the last 2 months. The breakout has done, the last range was roughly 150 to 200 points. So in that case, would expect a target price of 1,900 to 2,000 in the short term. And going forward, any dips back to 1,750 remain a buy. So the stock remains a hold at current levels. The trend is strong, and it has gone through this consolidation phase for the last few months. So should continue to slowly and steadily do well, would be the view.
Slowly and steadily, but definitely the auto pack is on the front foot today. So let's wait out and see where it heads. But time now for a short break on the show. Don't go anywhere.
Trades right here in ET now. The auto story chugging along nicely. PSUs as well delivering. And the energy sector, in fact, I should say the commodity basket is what's really been holding out well. Andrew, wanted to get your thoughts in on OMCs, ONGC, even for that matter, Coal India, the way it's moved up after its earnings, or for that matter, the positive surprises that one has got from NALCO, NMDC, all moving up quite nicely, the entire commodity pack.
No, the market's been rewarding those companies which have surprised on the upside and equally on the downside. But actually, you may get 1 or 2 days where the share price falls and then it bounces back very quickly. So it goes back to what I was saying before. We're a momentum-based market. And therefore, even if you fare poorly in the results, you're going to get some momentum behind you because of just the rotation that we're seeing. But I do like the metal stocks a lot. I think that's an area where I think we're going to see continued rises over the next course of the next month. And mainly because I do expect China to come up with some stimulus as well, which will help all the metal prices going forward. So that's the key, I think, for the next leg of the move for the metal prices or metal stocks going ahead. In terms of the oil companies, it's hard to kind of bet against them. Everyone is all brokers' reports now are turning hugely positive on anything to do with public sector units. So it's really a PSU story for the time being. It's horribly overbought, but as I said, the momentum's there. So we're going to keep going like this until something happens globally. And at the moment, if I take what's happening in the US, the narrative is just the Goldilocks scenario of yes, inflation's not killing us. Interest rates might be delayed, but guess what? We got growth in earnings, so we'll play that theme for the time being, and that's really what's happening, not just in the US but in other markets too. If you look in Europe, obviously the fact that the UK is in recession, Europe's already in there, so the only way I suppose that the market's looking is that interest rates may fall a little bit quicker in Europe than they would in the US. Given inflation's falling as well. So whichever way you look at the mix, it's a kind of a different story for each region, but each is playing out in terms of markets just moving higher.
Andrew, this is a question I've been posing to a few guests and I'm intrigued to hear your views on it. Would you be a buyer in HDFC Bank right now or SBI? What will be the preferred buy?
See, I can't really kind of talk on individual stock recommendations, but I said that PSU banks have been on a tear, and that doesn't look as though it's going to change very soon. I think with the private banks, I think we know what the problems are in terms of NIMs and in terms of getting the deposit growth higher without kind of impacting that much more. And the RBI, obviously, from a regulatory view, is playing an increasing role. So I think that's what's holding back the private banks for the time being, and all the fun and action is in the PSU banks.
Just reading out a few statements that have coming in from NASSCOM, because they say that India will continue to grow almost twice the rate faster than the global peers, and the enterprise tech budgets will likely increase in 2024 versus 2023, and overall almost 6.5 lakh employees in India are being trained on generative AI as well as activities related to artificial intelligence have jumped up by almost 9x or expected to jump up by 9x in 2024. So strong statements coming in as far as NASSCOM is concerned. The domestic market has already grown 6% and it's expected to accelerate from here on. On IT, Soni, what's your view? Which are the stocks that you like from the IT pack? Today, clearly, Wipro is having a bit of a breakout.
Absolutely. I think Wipro is looking quite good even at current levels, and it has a lot of steam left for more upside. You can see 560, 570 coming, and the support is just rising. The current immediate support can be seen at 520, 525 odd levels. I think one can still hold Wipro for higher targets of 560. The other IT from the entire pack, from midcap IT, I would put my bets on Birla Soft. I think Birla Soft is a stock which is holding quite nicely above 800. So in short term, as long as it is holding above 800, it can definitely test 880, 890 odd levels. I think it's a good buy. Any dip, any decline that can be seen towards 830 would be a good range to get into. 800 stop loss and 880 and 890 targets.
Okay, that's the take coming in on what the IT pack could be up to from here. Let's also address some of the laggards, having said that. Reliance. And Nooresh, we often talk about Reliance as to how this is one of those slow movers. One up day, one down day. Having said that, pretty much around all-time highs. What's next on the cards? When do we see a continual, meaningful up move in RIL?
So if you look at the recovery from this 2250, 2300 mark, which we saw in the stock, it has always continued in a slow and steady manner, taken a pause and then again made a move. So after that move from 2600 to 2800, it took a pause, drifted lower. Then again, we saw a spike. And now we are possibly again getting into a range-bound move of 2850 on the downside, 2970 on the upside. And the next move, we could go towards 3200. So for now, it remains a stock which is a buy on dips closer to 2850, 2870, or in momentum about 2980 for a quick spike. But the trend remains positive. The tendency also remains the same, which is slow and steady up move. So for now, it remains a hold at current levels, add on the way up about 2980 or on dips to 2850.
Take coming in on Reliance Industries, and on that note, we let you go. Thanks so much for making time and speaking with us. But let's quickly take the closing trades as well from our chartist. Soni, what looks good on the charts as a closing trade idea?
The closing trade would be in Jubilant Food. I think Jubilant Food, we have seen it testing multiple times of support of 470, 475, and finally it has bounced back from those levels. And it is definitely heading to break above the 500 odd resistance. I think from current level, it's a good buy with 490 stop loss, 520, 525 target.
Okay, and Nooresh, what looks good to you?
So that would be a buy on Ambuja Cements, which has seen good follow-up action. The stock has made a flag breakout above the 585, 590 mark and is not far away from an all-time high, which was last made around 600 levels back in 2023. So it looks like a momentum trade here. Could go towards 600 in the short for BTST and much more higher in the short term.
On that note, we're going to take a very quick break, but come right back. It's autos which are zooming up. So we'll tell you where is it that there's still value on the table within the entire auto pack.